Today we need to get into Suga getting in a little bit of trouble and him doing something a little risky. Supposedly we have a fan that was believed to have attacked Suga over a recent pro-Israel situation, and then we have a member of a different group that was in the ER and what happened with this. So hey Dumplings, it's Dave Desai, hater or not, make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on, and make sure you join us fangirling on Patreon, and let's go. This first story we need to talk about, and something that I've been wanting to talk about for a really long time and haven't really been able to get into it. And I say really long time, but it's only happened in the last few days or so. But it's absolutely crazy and really shows kind of where we are in society and specifically where we are with K-pop fans. Because I always think that we genuinely have come so far. I'll read some of the comments online, and it's people who are being more reasonable lately, and then I'll read comments like this, and it feels like we flew back in time 100 years. So what happened and what is going on? If you are unaware, something happened with one of the ENHYPEN members, Sunghoon. He recently had several conditions in which he was unable to perform in many different activities. So he just hasn't been active at all. The injuries apparently were so bad that he's been in the hospital and he's just been removed from all of the touring and any of the activities that has all of the members. So it's just his name that won't be on it. Now, due to this, a backlash completely blew up and came out, and people were absolutely so angry over this idea that the members are continuing their activities without Sunghoon. Recently, B-Lift, the label that works with them, put out a statement basically saying that Sunghoon was going to be removed from yet another activity or show. Suddenly, literally tens of thousands of tweets started flooding on Twitter with people asking B-Lift to do their job, and literally the hashtag B-Lift do your job was trending. So of course I click in to see what is going on and what people are talking about, because they just put out a statement to say that one of their members can't perform. So I'm assuming that's like do your job would be implying something like they're not healing him fast enough, or that he's not getting the medical attention that he might need, or something like that. However, none of that was true. People were upset because the company wasn't putting out his medical information. They weren't putting out exactly what he is going through medically. And so a lot of people are curious as to whether he is okay and whatever it is, and they're not specifying what condition Sunghoon has. Now, if you're like me, you literally want to punch a wall because you're probably thinking, oh, his medical information, that's personal and private information. Of course, the company can't share that. However, that sentiment is not reflected among the fandom. And to which I have to say, to beg, and not even because this is not even begging, but to demand that a label give you sensitive information about a person is not okay. And this is borderline stalkerish behavior. You need to trust that when the label says that one of their artists can't perform or can't work, that it's due to a medical reason, and we don't actually have to know what that medical reason is. Their job is to not put their artists in danger, and that includes not releasing private, sensitive medical information. I mean, there's a reason why I can't just go in the hospital and just grab random strangers' medical information, because that's not legal, and I think you can go to jail for that even too. We've also completely taken out this idea that maybe Sunghoon himself doesn't want the public to know what he's going through. And I'm not trying to say any specific condition is embarrassing, but there are conditions that are seen as more quote-unquote embarrassing that you wouldn't even want your parents to know about. So you don't even know what he's going through. And these actions feel like the fans are more so upset at the fact that he isn't performing more than they are upset about the fact that he might be in pain. Because if you felt like this person that you love was in pain and hurt all the time, then you would hope that they actually don't perform so that they can take time to heal themselves. You would actually be upset to see them on stage. So as per usual, a lot of these outrages and scandals come from a more selfish thing than it is actually a thing of caring about the artists themselves. And that is what's so messed up to me. What I can understand from all this is that since a lot of things aren't disclosed, and rightfully not disclosed, but since they're not disclosed, they can lead to a lot of conspiracy theories and things being made up. For example, a moment that resurfaced again that happened not too long ago was a moment where V had followed apparently a Big Bang member. If you remember this caused a huge backlash, and there was a lot of conversation about this. Now, it was believed that around this time, Suga actually did something very interesting, but the headline was covered up by what V did, and people have a lot of theories as to what actually happened. Now, this is all speculation, and the reason why I'm even talking about this is because I think it's interesting. This is not to mean anything, nor is it to spread anything. It's just a conversation that we're having. But as we know, V did get a lot of backlash for that because some of the Big Bang members are a little controversial. So what Suga did was he actually ended up following a specific account. Didn't follow someone that was out of the ordinary for him, or didn't follow someone that was going to be controversial. He followed an interior design page. And it's quite odd to see them follow anything other than just themselves. But when we saw that he followed the interior design page, that specifically wasn't even super out of character. He talked about once during a live stream that if he wasn't doing music, he would probably do interior design. And so him following that page, it's not out of character, or it's not something that the fandom isn't aware that he's interested in. But people were making up theories due to the timing of it all. People had a theory that he had a theory of why people were getting upset. He was wondering if people were upset over the fact that V was following anyone and was just upset over the fact that there was any sort of following going on, or was the community upset over the fact that it was a Big Bang member? And other theories of this is that just because it's V, and that's why he's getting a lot of hate. Because we all know the hate that each member gets is not equal. There are definitely members that get a lot more hate, so people believe that Suga followed the interior design page to test that theory. Is that a theory no matter who the BTS members follow, they're going to get backlash, or is it because they follow specific, more quote-unquote controversial people? And I think we got that answer, because I don't think anyone really talked about Suga following the interior design page. And I don't know how realistic this is, because if this was true, he would be potentially risking his own career just to see if the backlash is over V, and I don't know if he would be down to necessarily do that, because there's other ways to just see what the backlash is about. I mean, you could literally just go on Twitter and then see what people are upset about, and that will give you the answer. Of course, it makes no sense to assume that it's anyone that the BTS members follow that will get backlash, because I just don't think that that's true. If BTS went ahead and followed McDonald's, if they went ahead and followed like more restaurants and those sorts of things, I don't think that people would care. It's the fact that the fandom gets so overly protective over the fact that when BTS interacts with someone, that could be seen as controversial. And I read a post where someone was saying, I think it's time you realize that the BTS members are just celebrities. And this really confused me, because what were we thinking of them before this? Were people literally thinking of them as like literal God? Because that is putting them on a pedestal that they can never even match. To assume that they are these perfect beings who would never make any mistakes and always amazing is not accurate. Like, they're human beings. They're going to have moments where they're not amazing. They're going to make mistakes, and they're going to do things that are not going to be loved by everyone, and they're just trying their best. Every single person on this earth is just trying to live their life and do the best that they can. To assume that BTS members are anything more than that is crazy. It's wild to me. I can't even fathom that there are people out there who thought this. Of course, when you hold a celebrity at such a high caliber or standard, anything that they do is going to be seen as controversial. For example, recently Suga announced that he was going to be having his show, his tour, being aired in various parts of the world. So basically, if you didn't watch the tour or any of his shows when he was touring, then you'll be able to buy a ticket to go into the movie theater and watch it. This is great. BTS members have done this before, and it's always a big hit. Now, a list came out of exactly where his tour documentary or video is going to be aired, and one of the places was none other than Israel. This caused a lot of backlash, and huge backlash, as the community was so upset. As we know, if you've been following for a little bit, the community has been up in arms about the Israel situation. They want the label, they want all the artists to step away from Zionism and Israel people over the accusations of them committing genocide. Now, this is where I think it's too much, and this is going too far. First of all, to say that if he were to air his show in a country like Israel, that means that he is pro-genocide makes no sense. That's implying that every Israeli person is pro-genocide. If you believe some of them are, is it okay to say the entire race is? Makes no sense. That is like a new level of racism. Also, the language that they use to describe the Israeli people, calling them genocidal freaks, is such a terrible, terrible thing. And this is so hypocritical, because this is worse than what they're accusing the label of doing. Accusing an entire race of people to be doing this illegal thing and this huge, terrible sin is so beyond horrid. The teachings of Zionism and the teaching of the Zionist churches never talk about murder. They never talk about anything like that. What religion do you think actually teaches people to kill other people? This doesn't exist. People are, of course, worried about Suga's safety. He's not necessarily at the camp, as he is doing an alternate service, so that means he is roaming about. he's kind of continuing his normal day-to-day, and people are scared of if he'll be attacked or hurt over this situation. Overall, I think he'll be okay. As celebrities, we know that they tend to be not stay in one place too long, and that's usually for a safety reason. So if he continues to do that and just goes right home after his service is done, then he should be fine. It's quite a scary world to live in, where you might feel like if you support or love any group of people that you might be hurt, and you ideally don't want to ever not love a group of people. Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out Patreon for more videos. Link down below. Thanks for the comment right here. Love you. Bye.